Ah, look at you, sitting here waiting for me for the stream to start. Wow, I'm so popular. Yay! The crowd goes wild waiting for me. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, well. Good. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got some paprika plant, huh? Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. Good. Mm-hmm. Mm. Good evening, guys. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. One moment. Mm-hmm. Got my coffee, too. Oh, it might be too late for some caffeine, but I'm having some caffeine coffee, guys, because I'm naughty. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Alrighty, guys. Let's get to things. Let's get to her. Yep, it's only a matter of time before the PTB patch hits live and killers get completely ruined in 3 different ways. It's not often you get you transcend past DP to DP and like just getting a face full at the same time. At least it's not like hands, DP, and face at the same time. You know, that's like what 5-way. Instead, we are just stuck at a 3-way fuckery as a killer main. Oh. Instead, we're just stuck at 3-way fuckery as killers. That's just the way that's going, right? Yep. Ah, good, good, good. Only a matter of time getting my cannibal build ready. I was ready to just give up on the game, but we got some ulterior motives here. We're gonna play into the ground, which is cannibal, basement Bubba, Eerie Myers, and then maybe basement Trapper too. We'll see. We'll see. It all depends on how things go. If I want to spice it up, it'll be basement Trapper too. But pretty much most killers are basically dead at this point, from the looks of it. Might change, but basically you need either a killer that can get around in endurance effects, which are very few, which is basically Eerie Myers, or you need to have someone that can get a lot of hits in really fast, which is Cannibal. They follow what the community bitch is about. That's why they nerf things that don't necessarily need to be nerfed, like Deathslinger, for instance. They nerf things that don't necessarily need to be nerfed, or characters that don't need to be nerfed, like Nemesis. Remember when add-ons got nerfed, like Nemesis had his add-ons nerfed? There's another killer got nerfed add-ons too. It's like fucking Clown, or it was really fucking weird. It's Clown or Ghostface or something fucked up. It made no sense. At the same time, they nerfed Nemesis's add-ons, which also didn't make sense because no one was bitching about Nemesis. Yeah. Yeah, Nurse is definitely she's gonna take a hatchet pretty soon, as well as Blight. Blight's probably going to have his text removed, and Nurse is going to just be probably just reduced nurseness, so probably means they're just going to double the amount of time it takes to recharge your blink or something dumb. And then as a nurse, you're just going to sit there and wallow around while the survivors teabag you, basically. Is my guess. We're still working on aggro zombies, guys. We will continue that tonight. I think there might be a sweet spot between speed and aggro. It seems like aggro fixes them and they don't get broken as often, but they're really fucking slow. So there might be a certain speed threshold you cross that breaks the zombies, probably by design, that breaks the zombies and gets them stuck. Like if you're running speed add-ons, they nerf the speed add-ons just by breaking the AI when they move too fast or move too fast too often. And then you have to go reset them. Yeah. BHVR 100% broke the zombies. I'm very certain that it's BHVR's bullshit. Not something else. It is BHVR doing this shit. I'll be back, guys. I'm going to grab my coffee. And while I would say, I would technically agree with you that, yeah, maybe this game won't launch with endurance meta, right? I don't, like, with endurance stacking. I think it's going to. I think BHVR has proven to show themselves that they very much are in line with what survivors want, and as such we can expect that they're the same company that gave us 5 months of Circle of Healing meta, and then through Boilover meta on top of Circle of Healing meta, is going to bring us 3 to 5 off the hook endurance hits. So I highly expect that, so we have to find something else that works outside of it. I think the real interesting killer here is going to be Shape. Because we're going to still be able to chase normally, but we'll be able to insta-kill people. Obviously, it's going to be much more hit or miss because it's going to go to the end of the game, at which point we'll end up, you know, being able to insta-kill people. It's going to take a while. Getting Eerie 3 Myers takes fucking forever, so not only does we have problems right now with Shape, with building, you need to use his stock add-ons. Getting him to tier 3 is probably going to be a huge pain. That I don't know how else even to work, because getting to tier 2 really, really fucking matters. He's only a 104% killer when he has his tombstone. I didn't know that. Interesting. I didn't know he was only a 104 when he's perma tier 3. Yeah, it was really broken, wasn't it? And it took him a month to fix that shit. And then they nerfed Boil Over again afterwards, which I don't really think mattered that much. But they nerfed it again, probably to deal with controller players that literally like flipping their shit because they couldn't counteract the Boil Over enough. That was when it was at 100%. Yeah, so this takes 2 times as much stock as normal. And this requires so it takes 4 times as much stock in order to reach perma tier 3. And then you get a decreased movement by 9%. Which I might still end up using coup de grace. And not in a way. I think I'm going to use coup de grace to catch up. Well, I mean, you use this with play with your food, right? Coup de grace to catch up and then spin so you don't hit them. And then you're in a close quarters chase with them and then you grab them. It's going to require some finagling. Like, this is the only hero, by the way. Only character, by the way, that can use play with your food. No other killer basically can make use of it. Do I even have play with your food? Be hilarious. Basically, when he gets play with your food stacks, his kill does not count as a special or basic attack, so you don't lose stacks. So technically, you move it like 119 when you get max stacks play with your food. So it's going to be a couple different things going on here. The only killer, by the way, that play with your food works on. There's like, it doesn't show it, but I'm pretty sure there's a hidden cooldown in here on the wiki. The wiki shows it. Works in Plague. Plague Infection is not a basic attack or special attack. I'm pretty sure it loses stacks still when you use Curse Spew. Or maybe not. Maybe that's like losing a health state when it's not an attack. Sometimes there's weird interactions with that. Yeah, Plague doesn't work in general at high MMR. And the reasoning for that is, well, there's a lot of reasoning for that. We tried that already. You end up with survivors that will rotate around the map and never touch your infection. They just know where it is. You have people that will bully cleanse, meaning they'll all cleanse at exactly the same moment. You'll have people, when you drink your corrupt, that will just hide and you'll never see them till it expires. Yeah, one of the best add-ons for Plague is the one that removes fountains so they can't bully cleanse as easily. Yeah, it's just a completely different game. The kind of survivors that I play against just absolutely different. Like, I was watching, it makes me wonder, I was watching, Spooky Jukes earlier tonight. He's a guy that plays on a controller, but he tunnels and camps a lot, which I don't care. I'm very pro tunnel and camp, right? I was watching Spooky Jukes earlier tonight. He's getting really sweaty survivors. And then I was watching, like, Hexy, and he's getting brain-dead survivors, and I was watching, like, I flipped through because I thought maybe they tightened up the MMR, but he was consistently getting very sweaty survivors. Hexy is just getting brain-dead ones, and Winter was getting brain-dead ones. There's only a handful of broadcasters I can actually watch and actually try to suss out what kind of survivors they're getting because I watch them relatively regular. Hey Prime, Myers tonight? No. We're just talking about post-patch killers that I'm going to be running. More than likely, we're going to play Nemesis for a little bit after patch just to see if it works. But I'm pretty sure we're going to end up in the basement as Bubba. So if endurance stacking goes live, we're going to be in the basement as Bubba. Plague, I could see that working on Plague, but Plague in general does not work at high MMR. You have to take any Ireland or UK streamers, you have to take with a grain of salt because they play on their own little server in the middle of nowhere. They have an Ireland server, and the rest of Europe plays in Frankfurt. And the only way every time you start up the game, you are put on the closest server to your location, and because there's one connection between UK and Ireland and the rest of Europe, which is in the south end of UK, everyone will always connect, and UK and Ireland will always connect to the Ireland server, and everyone in the rest of Europe will always connect to the Frankfurt server because it's closer. It's closer because otherwise you have to go bam, bam, bam. If it was a UK server, which would make more I don't even know why it's not. It'd make even more sense if it was the UK server. If it's the UK server, maybe you get parts of Europe that would connect to it, but they don't. He didn't. He was a big proponent of why would I do that? It's not fun. But he started doing that recently because I think he realizes, hey, it's too late for that now. You have to do what wins. It's meta. It's fucking meta. And I guess maybe the community has come to terms with the fact that it's meta now. It's been meta for a long time playing a high MMR. It's just the way you have to fucking play the game. There's no other way around it. Giving 8 hook states is one of the worst things you can fucking do as a killer. It is. And I don't know why more people don't talk about it. Because 8 hook states is 8 fucking chases, right? The less chases you have, the better you're doing as a killer. That's just the way it is. Having more chases goes exactly the opposite of killing survivors, and that's why survivors want you to do it. They're like, yeah, man, just round robin the hooks. They will round robin the fuck out of you. They'll just throw each and every survivor one after another at you and just min-max their ability to spend time in chases. They sure will. And that's why you don't do that, because it doesn't make sense. But yeah. He never used to be. It's kind of weird. He's kind of setting off my spider senses recently, because he's like doing it without like... There's just cases where he just fucking finds someone randomly in a locker or something stupid like that doesn't even make sense. Yeah, you can't go for hooks. It doesn't make... It's literally correlative, not correlative. It is directly... It's a direct relationship between time doing something in the match, and survivors are trying to spend as little time as possible in the match, and you're trying to make sure that you kill them as fast as possible in the match, right? And spending more time doing more chases means your time in the match goes up like this, and their time in the match you're trying to keep at the bottom here doing gens as fast as possible, right? Yeah, it's literally the opposite direction of what you're supposed to be doing as killer, which is why you should never listen to survivors when they tell you to do stupid shit like that, because it doesn't make sense. Yeah. I don't know. True, I'd rather have, like, Lilith as a secondary killer than True, but that's just me. True, there's some killers that I learned from when I first came into the community. Like, I learned up in, like, even learning things up until, like, you know, like, middle ground. But then when I started playing against, like, high MMR survivors, like, I didn't learn anything from them anymore. Because they talk about playing against high MMR survivors all the time. And True, I think, doesn't necessarily play against high MMR survivors because he gets, like, he doesn't always get 4Ks or 3Ks. I think he gets stream sniped a shitload, because once again, if you're in UK and Ireland, you're playing on your own little server, and that means it's very easy to stream snipe you. And that's also why you see killers, I don't know, there's some killers in the community too that are just kind of, yeah, they have fucking weird chases. Like I mentioned before, people cheat and play video games, guys, and stream it, so, yeah. Yeah, it got rid of all 3 playstyles. People say, oh, it's going to encourage tunneling and camping. No, endurance stacking is a direct blow to tunneling and camping. Endurance stacking is a direct blow to it. They got rid of regression gameplay, which was the big one that a lot of streamers fucking played on. And they got rid of tunneling and camping, which is what I did. And then they got rid of slugging, which is something that, like, nurses do a lot, or twins will do a lot, right? They got rid of the 3 playstyles. All 3 of these took blows, especially tunneling and camping. And... regression gameplay also took a hit. Yeah, that one that all the killers basically do. Regression gameplay got a huge hit from Pop and Pain Resonance. Yeah. Yeah, and... yeah, Dead, yeah, he's an Ireland streamer. He has like a 10 ms ping to the server. But he randomly finds people an awful lot. And he catches up to survivors an awful lot very fast. Yeah. I don't watch that anymore. For some reason, he either goes against shitlords all the time, like bad players, or there's something weird going on there. I can't watch him. There's nothing to learn there. I do watch True on occasion, though. You know. But yeah, no, it's gonna hit all 3 playstyles, and you get nothing back for it. Borrowed Time did not get nerfed. Borrowed Time got wrapped into the base kit, and you're probably gonna have to, if you want to count it out, you'll have to expect that they have Borrowed Time, the perk, on top of Borrowed Time, the base kit. So you have to wait for 15 seconds, which is more than the 12 seconds you used to have to wait for the original perk, right? And then on top of that, they have haste, which means you just there's no waiting. You just have to hit them at this point. You can't wait it out anymore. There's no counterplay to that, because it's also possible they're going to have something like Off the Record, and they're going to have Dead Hard, and they're going to have Decisive Strike, and then there might also have something like a Medal of Man because of all the protection hits. And if you can spend 20 seconds in a chase, I've talked about this, no other streamers have talked about this as far as I know, but what you can expect, because if you get healed by something other than yourself, once again, this kind of goes into the weird interactions in the game. If you get healed by something other than yourself, it doesn't remove your endurance effects. And there's a perk that is never run right now, but I expect it to be run once people figure it out. And that is... Where'd you go? Talked about before. Cool. If you heal one survivor for the equivalent of 1 health state, it activates. When you get hooked, you suffer from broken until renewal deactivates. When you unhook yourself or you are unhooked, you suffer from broken until renewal deactivates. You're automatically healed for 1 health state after 20 seconds. And if you get hit with 2 broken or you get hit with 2 endurance effects, you are gonna be able to last a 20-second chase with 2 hits. So first one off the hook, and then you're gonna have a second one with Off the Record, and then you're gonna gain a health state while in chase. Yeah. Right here. While renewal is active, the following conditions will deactivate it: successfully being healed by renewal, which is the normal effect, being put into a dying state before the timer elapses, which is not going to happen if you have endurance stacks. So it's not run now because you usually end up on the ground before. I don't even know why this isn't run more often now, to be perfectly honest. Instead of something like Inner Healing, it's not hard to find a survivor to heal, especially if you use something like Bond, or there's the map-wide one too, for healing. It's like 120 yards. It's huge meters. And I think it even gives you a bonus. Yeah, this is Killer's got nothing. Killer's got a half-assed version of Brutal Strength and 2 stacks of STBFL. Oh, and 10 seconds on the gen, which doesn't fucking matter. Empathy. Injured or dying state, which is even better because then you can see people on the ground. Injured or dying state, 128 meters. So you can find someone to use if you really need to, because you're on voice comms. Let's imagine you're a solo survivor, which you could just get that perk for free if you're on voice comms, by the way. You can find someone to use this. Once again, I don't know why more people don't use this, and I don't know why it's not talked about more. Healing 1 health state happens in a match. I mean, my matches will usually have anywhere from 5 to 11 heals in them. At the upper end, you're running about 11 heals in a match. So, that's at least 1 heal per person. Surprise! There's another one for you guys. We talked about this on patch day. You can look at and click on my highlights and find my patch notes, which is basically everything, including endurance stacking, which we talked about, that we discussed on the first day of patch notes. But everyone else figured out when they hit PTB. Always ahead of the curve. Good. But yeah, there isn't much left. That's why we have backup killers. I said I was never gonna play Cannibal because he's too good at what he does. But basically, this is where we're at. Or we're gonna be playing Basement Bubba, or we will be playing Erie Myers. So, that's where we're at now. And unfortunately, I don't know, is there any way of finding your obsession? I don't think there is there? Besides, obviously, having an aura reading perk and perhaps seeing them? Like, a big part of the problem is if you have Play With Your Food on Erie Myers and you can't find players. I think actually one of the best aura reading perks right now is the locker one, to be perfectly honest, because they added a bunch of lockers due to penis head, penis face, and as such, darkness revealed. Reveal survivors with an 8 meters locker for 5 seconds. And a cooldown of 30 seconds. That's pretty good. Considering most aura reading perks are based off of finishing gens or hooks. This is pretty good. I would say this is random intel, by the way. This is up here with crows, only it gives you better intel. Assumingly if they actually set it off. Better intel because it's map wide. And you can see when you get aura reading, you can see outlines, so you can figure out which survivor it is. Whereas crows is just random intel. Crows is really good, though. Yeah, I don't know. So, like, part of the two things that kind of weigh into not really being able to figure out whether or not True is a really high MMR killer or just someone that's really good at high MMR. Two things that weigh into that is, one, he refused to tunnel and camp, so you don't really know how good he's doing because he never is consistently a high MMR. By his own doing, he just refused to play the game is basically what it came down to, and he wanted to play it in his own way. He refused to tunnel and camp because it makes him look bad for the longest time. And the second one is he plays on a super tiny server. So if you play in a region that has almost no one playing on it, that means the MMR is not going to be very balanced. It either means you're going to get disproportionately high MMR games, assuming you're a shitty killer. You're going to end up with survivors that are not around your MMR, and you're going to do worse than you should be. Or if you're at high MMR, you're going to do better than you should be because you won't necessarily get people that are at high MMR. A distribution looks like something like this, skill level rise, right? You have people down here that are really bad at the game, like really horrible, and you have people over here that are insanely good at the game. And then you have everyone else that sits inside of the center of the distribution, right, in terms of the amount of people in the game. And as such, if you have less people in your region, these ends of the ends of the distribution, the tail ends of the distribution are going to get fucked up in terms of your ability to play with people. So, and the game will eventually just boot you into lobbies. That's one of the things they changed with the MMR update recently was they reduced the wait time. So you'll eventually just get kicked in with just whatever the fuck it can put together, and that's just the way it is. That also means you're probably going to be, it's going to be much easier. If you're at either tail ends of the distribution here, it's going to be much easier to stream snipe you, which is where True is, for instance. Unfortunately, very easy to stream snipe on certain regions, and I don't know why. I made posts about it, guys. We've talked about the Ireland server before. I've made posts on Reddit, upvoted posts on Reddit, a highly upvoted post on Reddit. I made posts on the forums. I talked about on the forums again during the MMR update this spring, and I'm pretty sure the developers know. They just, I don't know why they have it. It doesn't make sense. Everyone should be playing on Frankfurt and in Europe, but they aren't. So it makes it really difficult to figure out whether or not they're skilled or not, or it's just they're running into shitlords, stuff like that. So, I don't know. They're all in their own little wonderland over there, and you can only suss so much from games that they're playing in because of their location and the kind of people they're playing with, the distribution of the population they're playing with. Unless for some strange reason there's like 10 times as many people in UK and Ireland that play Dead by Daylight compared to the rest of Europe. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's why they have a personal server over there. But I kind of doubt it. I think it's like a typo. Someone accidentally checked a box, or there might be some other reason. It's like a test area. I don't know. It's really fucking weird. There shouldn't be another server over there, but there clearly is. So yeah, I don't know, guys. And there's a large amount of streamers that play from UK Ireland too. If you guys have noticed that, like in the DBD community, there's a lot of UK streamers and Ireland streamers from that vicinity. There's the rest of Europe too, but it's strangely UK and Ireland for whatever. Maybe the developers are the developers for this game have their own agendas sometimes. So it could be that the Ireland server exists as a way of stream sniping them. I don't know. Like they have some nefarious cause here where maybe they figured out if they could make their time shitty enough, they could get them to leave or something. I have no idea. Very weird. But yeah, it's one of the reasons you can't really figure out. I haven't really learned stuff from True since I started playing, though. Once again, with MMR, he just refused to tunnel and camp. And I think a lot of it's not that tunneling and camping isn't enjoyable, by the way. If you play against high MMR survivors, they will try to save people. And if all I was doing was face camping and waiting for someone to die, it would not be enjoyable. That's not what happens in my games. People will, and then on top of it, if people are not going to save, then you have to weigh and balance proxying and how far you're going to proxy from the hook and whether or not you should go back to the hook, and then you risk people hiding for the rest of the game and ruining your tunnel, right? There's a lot of things that go into tunneling and camping than just standing in front of the hook. People that think you can face camp, get a 4K at high MMR are just full of shit. But you can probably get a 1 to 2K at high MMR by face camping, but not a 4. Maybe even that. I don't know. Like, high MMR survivors are very good at perk juggling, so you might not even get a 1K at high MMR just face camping if you're not good. Which I'm sure there's if it was easy to do, everyone would do it, right? That's why there's a longer queue for Survivor, because it's much less stressful, it's much easier to play, and generally you can just fuck around. You can be one of the 4 people that just isn't very good, and it doesn't matter to you as much. But if you're a bad killer, that's just all on you, so. I don't know. So, this is all gonna... Anyways, going back to talking about Myers, this is all gonna come down to figuring out how the new meta plays out, and then what perks we'll need to find the people that we need to make things happen. But as it stands right now, I'm pretty sure that endurance meta is just going to ruin the entire game, so we have to play in a way that has nothing to do with endurance meta, which is Basement Bubba and Eerie Myers, and we'll see where that goes. Kind of sad. I mean, I'm a Nemesis main, right? I really enjoy playing Nemesis, but there's only so much you can do with it. When people just get a boatload of endurance states. Maybe Nurse could do it too. It'd still take forever to down someone with a bunch of endurance states. Only a handful of killers that actually have like an AoE. One is Cannibal. Another would be Trickster. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. It's not endurance effects aren't just taking hits either, by the way. Endurance effects also include a sprint burst. When you hit someone with your attack, they get a speed boost. So with endurance effects, it's not just endurance, you also get a speed boost. If it was just endurance, it'd be a little bit different, but it's not. Because then you still have the wipe animation as a killer, the reload. You have the reload and then you move slower while that's happening. So even if they didn't have the speed boost, which they still have, it would still suck. Wouldn't suck as much, though. We'll see, guys. They got everything, though. Okay. Let's take a look at the tubes here real quick, guys. And maybe watch a tube video, and then we're going to... Ooh. I love going inside, guys. It's true. No, there was a overclocking video that was in not Hardware Unboxed, Gamers Nexus. Saw it on my feed yesterday. Breaking the rules, overclocking the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D. I want to see. Surprised no one else has done, well, Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed hasn't done a 5800X 3D overclocking video yet. But this looks like the first one, so we're going to take a peek at this.
In our testing today, we're going to learn why AMD probably turned overclocking off for the 5800 XT natively. And that's because we're testing a new feature from MSI that the company is calling Combo Strike, which is supposed to finally allow some form of basically overclocking by circumventing the built-in protections of the 5800X 3D and forcing the clocks higher in order to get a little bit more performance out of it, or at least that's what is supposed to be happening. Today we're going to be benchmarking Combo Strike, which again, it's just an exclusive MSI feature, but we normally review on Gigabyte boards, so we have some baseline data to compare against and see if it's actually helping anything. Let's get started. Before that, this video is brought to you by the HardwareBot Overclock.
So if you guys didn't know, they disabled overclocking to 1500x3D.
Is a great time to learn more about overclocking and the execution a little bit below. Check it out. So quick notes for Combo Strike.
And one of the reasons they said for was for stability. But as I mentioned before, HBM, which is what the stack that they put the giant cache on top of the CPUs. If you don't know what the X3D is, 3D cache is, they basically took an HBM die, which is a type of memory, and they plopped it down on top of a CPU core, which is mind-boggling. They shaved off the top of the CPU core and found enough room to put in an HBM stack, so a piece of memory between the top of the heat spreader on a CPU and the CPU core. Insane. That's pretty fucking cool. Anyways, it's led to giant caches, and it's why it's one of the only things that I'll suggest right now if you're going to buy a new processor besides waiting is a 5800X3D, because the 3D cache makes a big difference if you play games, especially older games, and ones that are more single-thread. It's a huge deal, and I'm sure Intel will have an equivalent in probably the 14,000 series in maybe 2 years from now, because it's something very particular to AMD right now. Anyways, HBM, the type of memory that they plop on top of the CPU cache, is actually very... there's problems with voltages degrading HBM in general. Not in this particular context, but if you overvolt it, there's problems with it degrading voltage, or degrading the quality of the stack, and it can lead to corruption and such. It's a problem in video card overclocking right now. So, or crypto mining with people that pump too much voltage into HBM. And it can be permanent too, by the way. So it's probably the reason that they disable it. Until the 7000 series, they'll probably have options available.
It does actually help performance a little bit, but only sometimes. And it's a little bit flawed in the execution because there are 3 different levels of Combo Strike, including off. This is accessed through the advanced CPU settings menu in BIOS. So you go to BIOS, you go to basically where the overclock settings normally are, you go to advanced CPU, and then there it is. For disabled, that's obvious, it's just not on. For level 1, it's supposed to be the lowest impact, and level 3 is supposed to be the highest performance uplift on the CPU, and this is basically only a 5800X3D feature because you cannot do normal overclocking with it unless you use some kind of workaround or hack, basically, to force the clocks higher and unlock it a bit. So there can be an uplift sometimes, as we'll show in our testing, but when you start really digging in and looking at vCore and T-die thermals on the CPU, power consumption, it's clear where the cost is coming from. It's those 3 things. Now, we'd normally do our AMD CPU test for our reviews on a Gigabyte X570 Master, and that means we can compare that existing data against MSIs for a couple of things. One of them, obviously, frequency scaling, and then the other one is just actual performance in gaming and in production applications. Now, in theory, this feature should help in production applications more than it would help in gaming, because if it's basically just boosting the clocks a little bit, whatever they can squeeze out of the 5800X3D before actually overvolting it to be in dangerous territory, then the impact will be most noticeable when you're running an all-core workload for an extended period of time. So that's where
it's mainly in 0.1% and 1%. So stuttering and micro stuttering is what you're looking for. And single-threaded games tend to stutter, like they tend to hiccup more severely than multi-threaded games, because of how it distributes the workload. And when something impacts a single thread, it impacts that one core. Like there's something that just decides it wants to run on that one core too. It can throw off, it can create bigger hiccups.
Throw off your FPS. Some of our labs testing data and see how the 5800X3D does on the MSI boards with Combo Strike. We are using the X570 Ace for this, which has the feature in the newest UEFI. It is technically a beta right now, and it shows. You should probably wait to download it. But they also have this feature available on some other boards like the Godlike and the Unify. The first test we're going to do for this is power testing. So we're going to take our CPU over there and run some benchmarks on it, because this will help us analyze if there's actually anything different happening on the CPU, because anything, frequency, voltage, it should all show up in power consumption. If they're bumping the frequency and doing other tweaks to CPU performance, it's very likely that that is accompanied with a voltage increase. And since it's all just P equals VI anyway for watts, the number one way we identify if there's something different happening in a CPU is by simply checking for the power numbers. So let's look at that. Testing at the EPS 12 volt cables with our lab test equipment, we're able to get power numbers as close to the CPU as possible without actually wiring into the board itself. The 5800X3D on our standardized Gigabyte board for our original review pulled 108 watts, with the MSI board baseline at 99 watts. They're running different voltages for vCore, so that's where that 9 watts or so comes from, other than VRM efficiency losses. The MSI Combo Strike Level 3, the most aggressive one, increases power consumption by about 6 watts over the default Combo Strike off setting on MSI. That's not error, and it is a real difference. The Level 1 result was 112 watts, though, so it's about a 12 watt increase for something that shouldn't actually be producing that much of a performance difference. In other words, 12% more power for probably nothing. Something is clearly happening with these settings that shouldn't be, and we'll be looking into that. For the full comparative power chart, you can check our original 5800X3D review or any of our other recent CPU reviews if you want to see where Intel and other AMD CPUs land. The next place we need to look is frequency, because frequency is the most likely place for difference in power consumption to actually be realized, and it's probably where the extra performance would be coming from if there is any. There's not much else you can really do, really. The Gigabyte board that we ran our review with held the 5800X3D at about 4300 megahertz to 4320 megahertz when under an all-core workload rendering a Blender animation. The MSI board's stock result was 4200 megahertz flat, so it's already starting in a behind position compared to the Gigabyte board that we used. And that's without Gigabyte running its own name brand Combo Strike feature. Running level 3 shows that this actually works. The 5800X3D is now above the Gigabyte board for frequency, about 4430 megahertz, or a 230 megahertz increase over MSI baseline just for one toggle. The level 1 result had MSI equaling the Gigabyte board here. Now we get to see what the downsides are for that frequency increase. Boosting the frequency basically always requires a vCore increase. Not always, but most of the time. And boosting voltage comes with a cost. With CPUs, that cost is traditionally thermal.
Is he trying to downplay this feature just for shits and giggles?
We're looking next. Here's what that cost is. The stock Gigabyte board ran T-die, or the average
2 Celsius.
of about 80 degrees Celsius under our Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360 cooler at max fan speeds and auto board settings. That means auto voltage as well. So we didn't control vCore because that is one of the things that MSI is changing here. Gigabyte has historically been on the high side for default voltage as well. The MSI board held steady state at 77 degrees Celsius over ambient, so it's cooler and outside of variance because we control ambient for every single second of the test, but it's also in line with the lower frequency. The Combo Strike 3 setting held at about 78.3 degrees, with the Combo Strike 1 setting skyrocketing to 82 degrees Celsius just comparatively to baseline. As for voltage, the Gigabyte board ran at a steady and constant 1.248 vCore, which is fairly high. The stock MSI board ran at a significantly lower 1.21 volts, at least as far as stock out-of-box settings are concerned. It's a pretty big change, with the Combo Strike Level 3 voltage fluctuating between 1.20 and 1.21 volts. The Combo Strike Level 1 voltage launched to 1.244 volts, a relatively stratospheric jaunt by comparison to Combo Strike 3, which is the one that will actually provide uplift. Now, most likely, this is showing us a problem with whatever lookup tables MSI is programming into its UEFI or its BIOS, where it's just fetching the wrong piece of data. So one BIOS update should fix whatever's going on here. So that explains what it's doing. The rest should just be housekeeping work to prove the performance of the CPU. And for this testing, we're removing all the other CPUs from our charts and just leaving only the 5800X3D and the Combo Strike variants on those charts, including the original Gigabyte result. If you want to see the rest of the CPUs, like from Intel or AMD's other options for competitive choicing, then you should look at our 10100 revisit or our 5800X3D review. Those are two of the most recent pieces we've done that would include the data for everything else. But let's get started with some production benchmarks, because that's where it's most likely to show a positive side for this feature before we get into the gaming stuff, where it becomes evident that it's a little less useful. Blender cycles rendering will give Combo Strike the best chance of showing a difference because the frequency gain is multiplied across all cores in a consistent workload. Here's the chart. The Gigabyte board we reviewed required 16.7 minutes to complete the render, while the MSI stock result took 17.1 minutes. That means Gigabyte starts off with a 2% lower time
Yeah,
to
right,
render.
okay. I don't know why they're spending so little time on gaming benchmarks.
Differences. The Combo Strike feature got MSI equal with Gigabyte when at level 1, but the voltage is clearly broken at this level, at least compared to level 3. Combo Strike level 3 boosts it to 16.2 minutes to complete, a 5.3% reduction from MSI's stock result. Now, that's actually not bad for a start, but it will get a lot more boring than that as we get into games. This is also a 3% reduction from the Gigabyte board, so it's a somewhat real result. In 7-zip compression testing, the 5800X3D on MSI's stock settings completed 93.6 thousand MIPS, or millions of instructions per second. The Gigabyte board slightly outdid that by 1.2%, and the
This is all
Combo
stuff
Strike
that doesn't really
improved by
matter when you're
2.3% over
looking at a
MSI's stock
5800X3D.
result. That's up to 96,000 MIPS now. Level 1 is between, as we would expect from the name and the frequency, but again, not the voltage. In decompression, the lineup is about the same. The 121K MIPS result of level 3 improved its rank over stock by 5%, or 3% over Gigabyte stock result. In Chromium code
I would disagree on
testing,
that,
the Gigabyte result
especially with Ryzen. Ryzen has moved mainly to latency tuning and also PBO overclocking, which is the built-in. You have to know how to manipulate the PBO, which is precision boost overdrive, which is the built-in overclocking. You can just leave it on default, but if you know how to, you basically undervolt. So PBO is the automatic overclocking, and you undervolt the cores, and then it pushes down the voltage, which drives the PBO up. You go in the opposite direction. Instead, normally with overclocking, you dump more voltage, right? Instead, you underclock or undervolt the CPU by default, and it will cause the algorithm to boost it even higher, which is what I've done on my processor. So it boosts even higher, and by base clock is higher, but it's automatically controlled by an algorithm still. So it's the difference by overclocking. You're basically overclocking through undervolting the built-in Ryzen algorithm. I also have latency. So you can't always get, so latency tuning isn't the same thing as just turning on XMP. Sometimes XMP works, but oftentimes there's an even tighter profile that you can put into it. And Ryzen CPUs are very sensitive to latency, memory latency that is, comparative to older CPUs.
It required 81.8 minutes to complete a compile, outdoing MSI's stock results by
But
1.6%.
a little bit different.
Combo
This
Strike
is
3 result
like
jumped
still
ahead to
relatively
79.6
fresh.
minutes, which is a 4% improvement over MSI's stock result.
I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how
2.7%
PBO
over
worked in
Gigabyte.
order to overclock it better.
Now we move on to the
Because PBO itself, by the way, if you have a Ryzen processor, turn PBO on just by default. You should just always turn on PBO. It's built-in overclocking. It's different than boost frequency, with both Ryzen and NVIDIA, Intel and AMD have. It's different than boost frequency, which is like your built-in. It's not even overclocking. It's really just built-in power management to the CPU to make certain clocks go faster while still staying inside the power envelope. But PBO allows you basically the processor to boost higher and longer depending on performance metrics that they have built into the CPU. It's different than just boost clocks. And if you have a Ryzen processor, make sure you turn it on. But then there's PBO tweaking, which is what I'm talking, which is basically the overclocking, which is where you manipulate the PBO algorithm to give you better performance. PBO 2 actually now. It is. It's very complicated. It is completely different. I remember overclocking my Intel CPUs, and it's just like you weigh and balance the voltage versus how many watts you want to put into the CPU, and then you reach the point of diminishing return. It usually goes like this. It goes like, and then it goes like that, and you basically put it right there at the start of the curve, at which it requires a shitload more voltage to not get errors, and then you're just set, and then you can just set it and leave it on. PBO is very complicated comparatively, and I thought about just leaving all-core overclock on, because I did that for a while, but now I don't. And like one of my, two of my cores will hit like 4.9 regularly with PBO, comparatively to what they used to be. But I used to, like, I could have just put the entire CPU and set to like 4.2 gigahertz or 4.3, but instead I still have PBO on. It is very complicated.
The Gigabyte board from our original
It's pretty
review,
insane.
up at 347 FPS average, and with 1% lows at 233 and 0.1% lows at 154 FPS. And as a reminder, these are the representations that we popularized in reviews for frame time pacing. Combo Strike Level 3 got MSI up to about the same level at 346 FPS average and with nearly identical lows. But the stock MSI board ran at 344 FPS average, allowing Combo Strike 3 a lead of almost 1 full percentage point, so the Level 1 result remains suspect, and we'll keep an eye on that. In F1 2021 at 1080p, there isn't much deviation between these results. The 5800X3D on Gigabyte ran at 354 FPS average, with the Combo Strike and MSI results all within error. Remember, this game is in the high hundreds of frames per second, So an extra 1 FPS isn't anything we can declare a victory. These are within run-to-run error and variance, and even if we had test resolution down to 1 FPS out of 350, it's just irrelevant. In Total War at 1080p, the 5800X 3D Gigabyte result ran at 216 FPS average, with lows at 167 and 149 FPS. The Combo Strike 3 result had MSI at 216 FPS average and roughly equal lows, theoretically boosting it above the 215 FPS average result of the stock MSI board, but again, we're basically within error here, so it's hard to declare a victory. The feature just isn't worth it in these games. In Far Cry 6, the 5800X 3D on Gigabyte ran nearly 1% better than on MSI boards, with Combo Strike doing nothing of note. Level 1 and Level 3 were the same. And we'll just save everyone's time here and stop on GTA 5, even though we have more games. GTA 5, it's the same thing. They're all the same. There's no deviation to speak of. So the only place we really saw a difference was in some of those production workloads. So wrapping up then, Combo Strike Level 1.
Does it just artificially increase the clock frequency but doesn't deliver performance?
Combo Strike Level 3 versus just completely turned off. There's not even.
That's kind of weird. Like, you should at least see deviation because of the frequency, right?
We looked at it enough to verify that it would be below
fucking weird.
Level 3 and above Level 1 in theory. But Level 1 has an issue where the V-core is simply too high for what the frequency actually is, and it doesn't make much sense. It seems like it's an error in MSI's UEFI programming.
This, by the way, the 5800X3D is basically first generation version of 3D Cache, which is, I mean, I have a 5900X. I wasn't going to side grade to it, right? But very interested in the technology, and my next CPU will have it in it. And I'll just wait until it comes out on the 7000 series, regardless if it doesn't come out this year or not. I'll just wait. I'm not buying a new CPU without 3D Cache or whatever Intel's equivalent will soon be.
Versus Gigabyte, Combo Strike Level 3, so versus the X570 Master we normally review on, which does not use a form of this feature, at least as it's
and depending on how much cache, they might increase cache based on the core count. It might even be worth getting a 60-core processor just for a giant 3D cache, which I don't know whether or not it's going to happen or not, because that's still rumor territory right now. But there might be a case to be made for more cores, even if it doesn't use them, because of the cache is going to be higher.
Blender, Chromium, and 7-zip, we saw
it might be core
1 to 3%
based on core count, basically number of dies on the CPU.
Really worth it. Only with the Level 3 version of Combo Strike, and then in gaming we saw 0 to approximately 1% max versus MSI's baseline. And really
so it does nothing. This is kind of weird because I've definitely seen on the AMD forums people bragging about their 3D cache overclocks. Maybe they're just full of shit, but there's other ways of doing this. So I was hoping this is going to be more interesting, but I guess that's just a built-in feature with MSI. Okay. Well, not as cool as I thought, guys. Interesting. Where are my times? They're there. Do I want to save that for tomorrow? I might. Segmented displays. Oh my god. I'd save that for tomorrow. B1M is pretty fantastic. Does anyone actually cycle in Switzerland? Yeah, a lot of people cycle in Switzerland. My brother lived there for a while and literally biked everywhere. You can also take the train if you want to. There's trains fucking everywhere in Switzerland too. Yeah, I remember AVE used to do breakdowns of tools. It doesn't do that anymore. 5 years ago. Good for him. He retired. I don't know what AMD Stardust is. I don't really care that much. May the farce be with you. There's a lot of YouTube channels that are shitting on Obi-Wan now. After it became clear as a stinker, even though you could figure that out after watching the series, they had to make sure that it was trending first before they made a video on why it's shitting. Why it shit itself. Okay. Let's just move on, guys. Let's take a look at the Reddits, and then we'll play some dibs. We'll just get into the dibs right away. Overwatch Reddits. What happened to Junkrat? He doesn't look as insane. Got a shower, I'm afraid. He just looks like a crazy inventor now. Overwatch 1, Tracer vs. Overwatch 2. There's a lot of posts like this on Reddits now, because... I think she has wider hips. She has wider legs, too. Finally, no Crocs. Oh, you have Overwatch 2, the not Overwatch 1 because she finally decided not to skip leg day? Yeah. But you know, she's also a fictional character in a video game, so... You know. Why I refuse to spend money on Watchpoint Pack. Goal is to provide access to all players that opt into the beta but no later than July 14th. Community Reddits. MSI Combo Story, get 1500 XRD. We would just watch that. Another 5800 XRD review, which has been out for months at this point. Getting there. We're getting there. On to the dibs. Beachwear, please explain how making Prestiging cost 50,000 blood points will reduce the grind. 50,000 blood points is one blood web. Fuck off. Also, doesn't it just reduces the entry into a new character or killer. That's it. Otherwise, blood web sunk cost is still the same, and hidden killer cost, hidden BP tax is. Killer BP tax is still there. Nemesis mains be like... Be the reason someone closes Dead by Daylight today? Yeah, that's bensim. That's bensim for you. Zeitgeist of DVD will never be the same due to 9 months of tunneling and camping in 4Ks. You're welcome, guys. Need a single-player game in your life? Ooh, it's true. I actually thought about I have to stop myself from watching people play Oxygen Unincluded because I like watch people play it and then I want to play it. I'm not even lying. Like C's was doing one of his playthroughs, which aren't really playthroughs by the way. He just literally stops before he's about to die. He did that with Don't Starve. He didn't even last a year. He just did it till like winter and then he quit the game because he mastered it apparently. It's kind of unfortunate. That's what happens though when you have no idea what you want to play and you just play what other people suggest and then just try to do it to make yourself look better and then you just stop playing it. You want to play it? Yeah, I want to play it too. We'll get there. Like the BHVR Armageddon's coming up, so it might entail a break. Don't worry. Don't worry. DVD Armageddon is approaching. There may be a break coming. What was the last game we broke for? I was going to do Oxy, but we played Rift Breaker instead. That was last fall. And then we took a break for Fortnite. And then there's another game this spring that we played this year. Yeah, I mean, it's coming up. Don't worry. It'll be there. You have to also understand there is literally 0 people that watch Oxygen Unincluded, so yeah. Oxygen not included. There is currently 68 viewers in the community. It's a fun game, don't get me wrong, but there's a reason I can't stream single-player games, even though I like them for prolonged periods of time. What about SimCity? What's SimCity doing? It's probably just like one, yeah. Nope. Let's do Don't Starve. Probably Don't Starve Together. You could actually do a community game of Don't Starve Together. Yeah. Probably just a bunch of modded play. Like, you can technically make the servers like 16 people, and then you could have your community join and do like point rewards with. There's totally a way you could actually monetize this, monetize the game, and make a community out of it. These guys have been here for a while. I remember last time I played Don't Starve, there was also people in here. So, and RimWorld also has people that routinely watch. I don't know why Oxygen Not Included doesn't. I think it has a lot to do with Oxygen Not Included. Yeah, RimWorld has a lot of people watching. And top couple channels though. I think it has a lot to do with Oxygen Not Included. Basically, have 2 game modes if you didn't know that. Oxygen Not Included has what you could call the gameplay mechanics game mode, in which you use buildings, research, stuff that you just get in the game that you just use, right? The secondary game mode, which is how you play endgame and how you actually play the game to win, is where you manipulate the game world, the environment, and when you use with a lot of automation, and when you do that, it completely breaks the game, and there's almost no difficulty associated with it. I was watching Widgety Bear. He's one of the he streams on a relatively unregular now, but he used to be the helicopter pilot. I was watching him play, and like his base looks nothing like a normal base. Like everything is automated, and it completely breaks the game. And it's basically the intention. It's like when you go to endgame in that game is literally learning automation and how to do everything outside, just like by manipulating the stuff that is in the game. And you could argue that's like the second is like the evolution of the game, right? Because you can, but I find it really boring because it actually just, it's literally just about running a bunch of circuits and shit, and it honestly just looks boring as shit. But it's really how you play it. They Are Billions. Yeah, They Are Billions is boring. Once you figure out kind of the gimmicks to it, it just... there's other single-player games I'd rather play. Even though I haven't really beat it, yeah. Yeah, just people like doing the ultra-hardest mode that they possibly can to get as many viewers as possible. And They Are Billions basically amounts to you just kiting around zombies with like an archer, and that's even more gimmicky. Yeah, well, I mean, that's normally the way single-player gameplays work for me, is I play a game for a couple weeks and then I'm done with it for months at that point. You are correct. Don't worry. Don't worry! Don't worry, KSA. As it turns out, there is plenty of time in life. There is plenty of time in life, and I stream a lot, so even if I stream 99% DBD, there will still be a week of which I play a single-player game. And don't worry, but like Oxygen Not Included, honestly, like when you get rid of the difficulty factor in it, it just makes the game unenjoyable in my opinion. And that's like the automation slash manipulating the game environment really, like water locks, for instance, I don't really like because they're just basically game breaking. Because they aren't really a mechanic that costs resources, just something easy you can do that's just like a cheat. It's very controversial in the community. I remember when I was streaming it last, and people are like, "No, water locks are part of real life." Real life isn't balancing, by the way. But putting that aside, like it has no cost associated with it. And I wanted like an actual airlock with doors. And in order for you to make one in the game, it is super expensive. But you can do a water lock with literally just a fucking water bottle and a pump. That's it. Yeah, the automation breaks everything. It breaks everything. It breaks energy costs. It breaks income. It breaks pretty much everything. It's just, yeah, it's one of the reasons I don't really like it, but I understand that it's endgame. There's a big Venomite community, and Oxygen Not Included, that really likes the automation and the endgame aspect of it. But honestly, like, it doesn't feel like a colony builder at that point when you're doing that. Like, you eventually get to the point, like, I like having a shitload of dupes. And by the way, that's another way of manipulating the game to make things easier, is instead of having a shitload of dupes to do things in real time or close to it, you just have like 4 dupes and you run the game at maximum speed, right? And honestly, I don't think that should be a thing. It's much easier playing the game with a handful of dupes and just running at maximum speed than it is playing the game with like 8 dupes or 10 dupes, because there's a lot more to take care of, right? And once again, it breaks the game, and that's unfortunate. The game gets much harder the more dupes you have, and you don't need to do that if you do a lot of automation and you play the game at 2x speed, which basically everyone did in the community last time I played it. So we'll see. I could just play it in my own way, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I enjoy playing it the version 1 instead of version 2. I enjoy playing it without a bunch of automation, but in order to actually get to endgame, one of the things that frustrates me is in order to do well in that game, when you get later on, is literally to play V2, and I think that throws off a lot of people. I don't think there's a lot of people that even understand that the game basically morphs into pure automation, programming, and manipulating the game environment, and that's probably why there's a lack of people. Like, it gets too difficult, and people don't realize that there's actually like a cheat. I'd almost say like a cheat mode in the game, which is V2. Yeah. I don't know, but we'll still play it. It's still fun. It doesn't matter if you play V1 or V2. That just kind of sucks, and the end version of the game is literally just that, and that's it, you know. So yeah, it is super fun. It is difficult. We played I remember one of the last times we played in a lava region, and fucking one of the ways that they kill you off later on is heat creep from everything. It is very, very difficult to deal with heat creep, and you have to go to V2 and basically use the automated heat destruction machine, which is the steam turbine. You need to do a steam turbine in order to destroy heat so it doesn't obliterate you. And it's something it's very counterintuitive, and it's not built into the game, and it's something you have to learn from a wiki or watch from a video. And at that point, like, there should be some built-in V1 mechanics that help you deal with late game, and there isn't. And it doesn't need to be super efficient, it doesn't need to be super good, but there should be a way of dealing with stuff, and it isn't. You are basically made to go to V2, and if you don't go to V2, you are punished for it by death, and that's I think that's very unfortunate. I should really save this for a rant when we're playing the game, when there's people actually watching with the community, because I'm sure. And of course, if you play something like They Are Billions, you know, the couple people that actually watch only They Are Billions aren't going to stick around for DVD afterwards, which is why I only do it for a couple weeks, right? But we'll do it. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're getting there. We're getting there, guys. It's going to take a little bit, but probably we're going to wait and see until after they drop the bombshell of the P2B patch on live. We're going to see what they push live and go from there. And so maybe in a month is the way it's looking. That's a long time. It seems like it's, but it's not. When you stream a lot, that's not a lot of time. So probably P2B patch is probably going to drop in the next week or two. And then it's probably going to take a week or two to figure out how broken the game is. Maybe even less than that. Maybe a couple days. High MMR usually takes hold on stuff a lot faster than normal MMR, so They catch on to stuff a lot faster. Like, I remember, like, that's one of the reasons I mentioned before. You can't really gauge like true skill because he plays on like a super tiny region in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Like, he could VPN to Frankfurt, but he doesn't. Much like I've discussed, I've dropped the information in every one of the big streamers, not discords, in every one of the big streamers' chats. They've noticed it, and they'll say something like VPNing is illegal or something stupid like that, or just look at it and just disregard it. I've dumped it in every single one of those, so you can't really tell. Bigger player base means they'll have more people around their MMR. That's just the way it works. But once again, once the patch goes live, you'll be able to see, basically, you'll be able to see on whether or not how balanced the regions are based on the bonus they get playing killer. So if they're sitting at 100% extra BP, that generally means their region has like no fucking one playing in it and they aren't getting balanced games. But if they're sitting at like 0 to 25, it'll depend on how fast it ratchets up. If they're sitting at like 0 to 25, that generally means that the games are relatively balanced in their area because it's getting killers around their game and it's getting survivors that aren't waiting in queue or waiting around certain levels to actually play it. It'll depend on the algorithm, but we'll be able to suss it out compared to what you do right now. Which we talked about, by the way. We talked about this all in the DVD, in the dev update. We discussed the dev update, and I highlighted it. We discussed all this, including what I just said right now. Always ahead of the curve. But I'm going to use the bathroom real quick, guys. Going to wash out with a coffee cup and grab a soda, and then we'll get into the dibs. I'll be right back, guys. 1 second. Music's still playing. Alrighty, guys. Okay. Include more fiber in my diet. My fiber intake's fine. It is the stress poop of the night. Thanks, DVD. Keeping me regular. Good, good, good. Oh my god! Someday? No. Yeah. Yeah. It's not. It's actually the opposite of it. I find using the bathroom to be very meditative. It sounds probably pretty weird, but it's not. There isn't very many times where you can completely relax your body without, creating a giant mess. As weird as that sounds, it's true if you think about it. But a good, nice, wholesome poop is actually very therapeutic, in my opinion. If you're struggling when you're using the bathroom, that's obviously not good. And by the way, one of the best plays to poop, if you've ever seen a chair that they use to raise your legs up into the proper position, you don't actually need that. We've talked about it before, like squatty potty ads. If you haven't seen that, oh, you're in for a treat. I'm pretty sure everyone's. It's probably like 5 years old at this point, maybe 7 years old. If you haven't seen the squatty potty ads, yeah, you don't need a squatty potty, by the way. Okay, we have to do video. Yoga poop, yeah, pretty much. We have to do a video because humans weren't designed to sit down when they poop, as it turns out. Time to do a video, guys. It is wholesome video time. I'm pretty sure it was a meme at one point. Squatty potty. No, that's different. This is not an ad, by the way. It was basically a viral hit at one point.
This is where your ice cream comes from. The creamy poop of a mystic unicorn. Totally clean, totally cool, and soft served straight from a sphincter. They're good at pooping. But you know who sucks at pooping? You do. That's because when you sit on a porcelain throne, this muscle puts a kink in the hose and stops the Ben and Jerry's from sliding out smoothly. Is that a problem? I don't know. Are hemorrhoids a problem? Because sitting at this angle can cause hemorrhoids, bloating, constipation, and a buttload of other crap. And seriously, unicorn hemorrhoids? The glitter gets everywhere. What happens when you go from a sit to a squat? Voila! This muscle relaxes and that kink goes away faster than Pegasus laying sweet sherbet dookie. Now your colon's open and ready for battle. That's because our bodies were made to poop in a squat, and now there's a product that lets you squat in your own home. Introducing...
Scott in your own home?
The Squatty Potty. No, Squatty Potty is not a joke. And yes, it will give you the best poop of your life, guaranteed. I don't just mean you bloated lords and hemorrhoidal ladies. I mean everyone. Kink, unkink. Kink, unkink. It's simple science, really. Can't get the last scoop out of the carton. With the Squatty Potty, you get complete elimination. Spend too much time on the chamber pot? The Squatty Potty makes you go twice as fast for your money back. I stream, you stream, and plop, plop, baby. Maybe you're sore from squeezing out solid globs of rocky road. Gives you a smooth stream of froyo that glides like a virgin swan. Plus, when you're done, it tucks neatly out of sight, thanks to its innovative, patented design. Truly a footstool fit for a constipated king. So, if you're a human being who poops from your butt, click here to order your Squatty Potty today at squattypotty.com.
7 years old.
You wish you tried it years ago. And if you don't trust a prince, how about your doctor? Shark Tank, HuffPost, NPR, Men's Health, Howard Stern. He poops from his butt. They're all crazy about the Squatty Potty. Not to mention the 2,000 Amazon users who gave the Squatty Potty 5 stars, including the author of this moving haiku.
Oh, Squatty Potty, you fill me with endless joy, yet leave me empty.
Squatty Potty today. I'm not saying it will make your poop as soft as this cookies and cream, but I'm not saying it won't. Squatty Potty, the stool for better stool. It will never be the same. And neither will ice cream. That one for you, very good. How does it taste? Is that delicious? Is that the best thing you've ever had in your life? There you are.
Yeah. Viral ads, guys. So, putting aside how hilarious this is actually there's truth to this, which depends on the angle of your legs. So when you sit on the shitter like this, right? You have right angle legs. It turns out you don't need a squatty potty. All you have to do is angle yourself forward and then put your legs basically perpendicular to your ass. It's difficult to get it back that far, but you don't really need to. You just need to angle your legs back so you have an angle in your legs, and then like you're leaning forward like that. Most people lean forward, but their legs are sitting in front of the toilet like this, right? Or like this. But you want to move your legs back like that, so you're like at an angle. And it actually makes things much easier. You don't need to believe me, try it for yourself. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it definitely helps. Yeah. Yeah, don't take my word for it. Here's some life advice for you guys. Try it yourself. It actually works. It's equivalent. So when you're shitting in the forest, right, you're squatting and your legs are basically behind you like this, right? So your legs, when you squat in the forest, are not straight up and down. They're not at 90-degree angles like this because you can't hold yourself up. They're like this. And that's basically the way that your body was built, is to shit in a forest. Because we're all fucking apes, as it turns out. Your body's basically built to shit in a forest, and as such, if you sit at exactly at that right angle, it makes everything much easier. Don't take my word for it. Try it yourself, and yeah, basically, yeah, yoga poop. Yeah, it's basically yoga poop. Is basically what it comes down. You literally just have to move your legs into the correct position and angle yourself right, and just kind of rough on your tendons if you don't have stretchy tendons, but otherwise works very good. Yeah. Arab style pooping is the way to go. Yeah, that's where you're using the toilet in the ground, right? I mean, they do that in Japan too. That's just a squatting. I don't know if I want to click on that. That looks suspicious as fuck, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna shit in the forest, fuck my toilet. I mean, you don't need to go that far, though. You take over my computer, I'm coming for you. Yeah. So this is like Japanese toilets where you squat over. You don't even need to go that far, though. You can sit on it and just like lean forward like that. It'll just almost immediately work. You'll be able to tell the difference. You'll be able to use your muscles differently. So you just like your body, instead of being like this, leaning forward with your legs forward like this, you put your legs back like that, almost the same angle that you're leaning forward, and it works much easier. Yeah. But this takes a certain amount of balance to do. I don't think I could do this. Obviously with your bidet wand. Yeah. But you don't need to do that. You don't need a squatty potty. But the idea is the same. So once again, if you have problems pooping, that's not why I enjoy my poop time. I mean, a bidet is actually pretty good if you have a nice one. Cheap, shitty bidets are not fun. I told you guys before, I got my brother one. I got him, well, I got it for my dad for Christmas because I thought it was hilarious and I thought he might actually use it. My dad obviously didn't want it. So then I gave it to my brother because I wasn't going to send it back because it wasn't really that expensive. Gave it to my brother. He installed it on his toilet. It's a non-heated one in which you can basically just adjust the amount of flow. He basically got a new water main for his house, which gives him 90 PSI. Earlier that year, this is back maybe 4 or 5 years ago, five years ago maybe. And I still remember he went to the bathroom to use it, and it basically, because he had so much pressure, it basically shot like a fucking pencil-sized stream of high-pressure water like directly into his asshole. And he just like screamed and ran away from it. It was horrid. It was absolutely horrid. The better ones have heating. I don't know why it doesn't have tanks on the side. Generally, the heated ones, the more expensive ones, actually put a thing on the toilet, but then it takes up part of the toilet space that you actually sit on, which is, I don't know why they do that. Like, you could just put the tanks below behind the big tank above it, and they don't do that shit. Instead, they have a tank behind the seat, and it takes up squatting space. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah, it was pretty hilarious when it happened. I was there for that. Obviously not in the bathroom, but I was there for that experience. That was absolutely hilarious. I tried it myself, and it is like, because it's like ice cold too, it like just immediately numbs your asshole too. Not very pleasant, but you know, more expensive bidet's a little bit different. But yeah, the ones that sit on the back of the toilet, I don't know why they don't have tanks that go on the side of the toilet. It's pretty stupid. They probably do, maybe. I haven't seen them on Amazon though. They're all the tanks behind the back of the toilet, or behind your seat, which is dumb. All right, first game of the night, guys. Let's see how she goes. Yeah? You think he'll need luck? Think it's gotten to that point, Raul? Have fun. I mean, I usually do. TTV. Gamer. Maybe. We'll see. I think our first game yesterday had a cheater in it. Maybe we should just... This is actually a thing for whiles where I'd get a extremely sweaty cheater lobby on my first game of the night, like, all the fucking time. That was back, like, in December. I don't know how it's going now, though. Mm-hmm. Putting a lot of pressure on me, dude. And a dodge. Let me just make a new lobby. I can. And we have memers. Okay. My bitrate's getting hit right now. Holy fucking shit. The fuck just happened? What the literal fuck just happened? Well, I think I just got pushed onto a different network. My internet just went to shit. Like hardcore shit. Not like a little bit of shit. Like, I'm dropping frames, I can barely get 4 meg shit. Spirit of UTTVE, leave the lobby? Yeah, definitely. What the fuck's going on? Am I getting DDoSed? I can't even get to a speed test page, guys. Fucking shit. Well, this isn't normal. Normally, like, I get, like, an extra 10 ms. This is, like, literally... Yeah, like, I'm dropping frames right now. I can't maintain 5 megs. What the fuck is that timing? This is 12:19? That doesn't even make sense for start of maintenance. Am I getting DDoSed? I might have to change IPs here, guys. No. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I think I have to change my IP. Either I'm getting DDoS or some weird fucking maintenance is going on right now. It literally just started the moment I was going to play a game. Yeah, I can't actually stream on this, and I can't play a game at this. Let's see. Do... We could wait and see. I can't even play, I just literally finished the podcast, and they just finished shitting and the podcast and was about to play a game. It just went to shit. Still dropping frames, guys. It's too soon to check whether or not my provider's having problems. Yeah, well, if I do any internet changes, I'm going to change my IP. Just in case there's a DDoS. I think that's the only thing that's going to change this right now. I can't even get to the website. Okay. I'm going to have to change... I'm going to do a couple things here, guys. $1,100 MS. Well, at least it started. That happened before I started my game.